Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is time for tonight's main event. Making their way to your radio waves, live from the CKDJ studios, this is Wrestling with Ideas. Welcome back inside the CKDJ studios, right here for Wrestling with Ideas on CKDJ 107.9, Ottawa's new music. This is the show that challenges your thoughts and wrestles with ideas. I am now your sole host of Wrestling with Ideas, Colin the Music Man Scully. And this episode here is going to be the beginning of how I want to run things on the show now that I am the host. But without further ado, let's just get straight into the news of the week. All right, we've got some sad news to report as of today, which is the 20th of June. It was announced earlier today that Leon White, better known to WWE audiences as Vader, has passed away Monday night at the age of 63. While White began his sports entertainment career in the mid-1980s after retiring from the NFL due to injury. Now, after that, he rose to national stardom in Vern Gagne's AWA before joining NJPW as the masked Big Van Vader. He became one of the promotion's biggest stars and most feared competitors. But then he transitioned to WCW, where he would make the biggest mark of his career. He engaged in memorable rivalries with the likes of Sting and Ron Simmons, becoming a dominant three-time WCW World Champion in the process. In 1996, Vader joined the WWE roster, where he squared off against superstars such as Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker. He also found success on the small screen with a recurring guest role on the popular 1990s television program Boy Meets World. WWE and Wrestling with Ideas extend their condolences to White's family, friends, and fans. All right, moving across the pond, if you will. There's been some interesting developments coming out of the WWE NXT, or coming out of the WWE. All right, moving across the pond now to London, England, where it was announced recently that WWE will make tickets available beginning the 29th of June for 8 live events that will be taped for NXT UK, a new United Kingdom series featuring the greatest competitors from the UK and Ireland. Now, the UK Championship plus 2 new championships, which are the UK Women's Championship and the UK Tag Team Championship, will be on the line in 8 events in Cambridge, Birmingham, Plymouth, and Liverpool. Now, these events start off on the 28th and 29th of July and conclude on the 24th and 25th. Now, here's what Triple H had to say about this.
It gives me great pleasure to be here tonight. Many of you have gone by since I last wrestled here, but I'm very proud and privileged to be here tonight to announce the commencement of the NXT UK brand.
UK wrestling, not just the men. We'll be starting a women's division. We'll be starting a tag team division. So with that said, and the announcement of NXT UK, there's just one question left to ask. With Johnny Satan as your GM, are you ready?
Right. Now, this is something that personally I'm very excited for. As some of you will know on the WrestleCast, I like really to watch a lot of Progress Wrestling, and it'll be interesting to see if WWE and Progress sign a sort of deal, or if they've already got a sort of deal, where they have a talent exchange program with the NXT UK and Progress. But I digress, as recently WWE just completed their tapings of the 2018 United Kingdom Championship Tournament. Now, I'm not going to give any spoilers away, but it was definitely a great the matches are going to be good. Let's put it that way. The matches are going to be very good. Now, quickly, before we get into what happened in the world of wrestling in terms of shows and the like, we've got to talk about very interesting firing on the part of WWE. Now, Big Cass was released a couple of days ago from the WWE for apparently multiple reasons, most of them happening on the WWE's European tour. Apparently, Cass went against a directive from the big McMahon, Vince McMahon, last month during a segment involving a little person. We're told this is when things began to go south for Big Cass. Now, apparently on the bus that was chauffeuring the talent in Europe, there was an incident in the bus bathroom where apparently the bathroom lock was broken, but Cass didn't realize it and thought he was being pranked. After being stuck inside for too long, he broke down the door, which then meant that people had to use the bathroom without the door there. Now, it is also said that this all happened while Big Cass was drunk, as he was also noted to be drinking quite a bit during the WWE European tour. All right, moving on to what happened in Chicago. Now, this past weekend in Chicago, Illinois, there was some very good wrestling on the part of the WWE. Both NXT TakeOver Chicago 2 and Money in the Bank 2018 were fought at the Allstate Arena in Rosemont, Illinois. Now let's go over the cards from both of these matches, and I'll talk a little bit about both of the cards and some of the matches here. So the first match on the NXT card saw the Undisputed Era face off against Danny Burch and Oney Lorcan for the NXT tag team titles. Now this was a great opening match. It was a good debut on the pay-per-view / WWE Network special scene for Burch and Lorcan. Now, the Undisputed Era were clearly the fan favorites, albeit the fact that they are also heels. Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch sadly lost the match, but there was definitely some good spots from both of them. And also, the Undisputed Era are most likely going to be one of, if not the biggest tag teams coming out of NXT in the next couple of years. Moving on to Ricochet versus Velveteen Dream. Now, this match was something that I was very excited to see, as I liked seeing Velveteen Dream in this sort of heel role when you have Ricochet as the face there. This is definitely the better way to do it. Dream worked over a prone Ricochet who had his throat caught up on the top rope at a point in the match, proceeded to mimic some of his opponent's offense in an attempt to prove he can do whatever his opponent can, just better. Now, Dream slowed the pace down a bit, just attempting to keep him grounded. Now, Ricochet ended up defeating Dream with a 630 splash to win. Now, this one wasn't as good of a match as the opener, but there was definitely some strong performances from both guys. Up next, so there was a match for the NXT Women's Championship between Cross and Baszler, Nikki Cross and Shayna Baszler. Not too much to say about this, other than the fact that Nikki Cross creeped the crap out of most people who were watching this when she was smiling as she was passing out because Shayna Baszler was choking her out. Now on to the penultimate match of the night. We've got Aleister Black versus Lars Sullivan for the NXT Championship. Now, if you listen to past episodes of Wrestling with Ideas, I am very high on Lars Sullivan. I am also high on Aleister Black. But Lars Sullivan, man, the guy, I'm not normally this lost for words here. Lars Sullivan is definitely somebody who I can see as a main eventer on the main roster. As well, I can see Aleister Black, but don't get me wrong, there were some great spots, but this really wasn't as good of a match as I was expecting from superstars of this caliber here. Now, moving on to probably one of the best matches ever. I don't understand. I don't think this match was the best match of 2018 in WWE. Tommaso Ciampa versus Johnny Gargano in a Chicago street fight. Now, Ciampa versus Gargano, if we were to bring back the Slammies, these guys would win the Slammy for best feud of the year for the next 20 years, even if this feud doesn't keep happening. Now, Johnny Gargano, okay, is definitely one of the better faces, but Tommaso Ciampa, right? He is the best heel in wrestling today, and let me tell you why. Right, so there was a spot in the match towards the end before you know what hit the fan, where Tommaso Ciampa was walking with Johnny Gargano up the ramp, telling the story of how they used to be best friends, they were family, they were going to rule the world, they were going to win the NXT Tag Team Championships, before treating WWE fans to a scene that was all too familiar from the previous NXT TakeOver Chicago a year ago, more or less a year ago, where Tommaso Ciampa threw Johnny Gargano into the LED wall after losing a match for the NXT Tag Team Championships. This is exactly what happened here this past Saturday as well. Now, standing on a piece of rigging off to the side, Ciampa ripped Johnny Gargano's wedding ring off, and spit on it and threw it across the arena. This momentary distraction, however, allowed Johnny Gargano to grab hold of Tommaso Ciampa and send him crashing through two tables. The referee called for help as both men were left in tremendous pain, and then medics and officials put Ciampa on a gurney and placed a neck brace on him while Gargano watched from above. After realizing that his ring was off, Johnny Gargano lost his you-know-what and grabbed the stretcher, rolled Ciampa to the ring, and trapped him in the Gargano escape. Tommaso Ciampa tapped, but there was no bell. Now, after the security guards, company officials, whatever you want to call them, came out to try and get Gargano off, Gargano then proceeded to handcuff Ciampa's hands behind his back and gave some kicks to the head of Ciampa. He reapplied the submission finisher, and the officials appeared again, pulling him away from the ring. As Gargano returned to the ring after beating the crap out of the officials again, an alert Ciampa grabbed him, dropped him with a DDT on the exposed boards in the ring, and scored the victory. Ciampa, beat and battered, had his arm raised in victory while medics checked on Gargano. Now, Johnny Gargano, if you were to ask me who his comparison is on the main roster, I give you Daniel Bryan. Now, in terms of Tommaso Ciampa, though, there really, when you think about it, isn't there. You can't compare Tommaso Ciampa to anybody in 2018. The reason for that being, there's nobody like him. Find me a guy who's this sadistic, please. I would love to find a guy who brings the amount of personal vendettas and personal storyline into this more than Tommaso Ciampa. But I digress, and I got to stop rambling on here because we got to take a quick commercial break. But when we come back, we're going to be talking about Money in the Bank, as well as Raw and SmackDown. You're listening to CKDJ 107.9, Ottawa's new music.
Hey, this is the Beer City Bruiser. Crack one open and listen to Wrestling with Ideas.
Welcome back inside the CKDJ studios right here for Wrestling with Ideas on CKDJ 107.9, Ottawa's new music. I am the music man, Colin Scully, and now it's time to talk some Money in the Bank. Starting off from the bottom of the card here on the pre-show, we had a surprisingly good match for a pre-show between the Bludgeon Brothers and the Club. This was a good match. Again, as I said, this was a very good match for the pre-show that featured the Bludgeons doing what they do best and the Club firing up for the finish only to screw it up in the end. It's hard for the teams to get up. It's hard for the fans, though, to watch this and be excited for it when the teams have no time to build anything. They did everything on Twitter, and that wasn't the way to do it. After the tag team match at TakeOver, we really need to see some more good tag team matches on the main roster. Now, whether that means you call the entire tag division up from NXT up to the WWE and send everybody else down, I don't know. But, like, name me a good tag team on the main roster right now, please. Moving forward, we've got Seth Rollins versus Elias. No. All right, getting on to the second match of the card here, we've got Daniel Bryan versus Big Cass. Now, this match went about 10 minutes too long. It went 16 minutes and 19 seconds. But, like, Big Cass really... Well, I mean, this was Big Cass's last WWE match as he was released almost, I think it was... So he was released 2 days after this happened. Nothing much to say here. Daniel Bryan got the win by submission, yada, yada, yada. Bobby Lashley versus Sami Zayn, yada, 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 whatever. Bobby Lashley won, obviously. Seth Rollins versus Elias, moving on to the first good match on the card here. I'm surprised, personally, that Seth Rollins actually got the win here. I was disappointed to see that the match was solid. Like, I mean, it was good to see that the match was solid. There's nothing really to complain about. Rollins has been on such a roll for 6 months now. And this was a little under the bar that he set for himself just in terms of what we've come to expect out of Seth Rollins. But this was short-lived, as the following night he did lose his championship to Dolph Ziggler. All right, moving on to the next match on the card here. We did have the women's Money in the Bank match between Alexa Bliss, Charlotte Flair, Ember Moon, Becky Lynch, Lana, Naomi, Natalya, and Sasha Banks. There were a lot of rumors that were absolutely squashed when Alexa Bliss actually ended up being the winner of this match. Now, I won't talk too much about this match here, other than the fact that it was better than I was expecting. But there was something interesting that happened later in the night involving Alexa Bliss. But moving on to the next match, you got Roman Reigns defeating Jinder Mahal alongside Sunil Singh. It was a match. It happened. It wasn't too good. Really not that much to say. Moving on to something that really I like. We saw Carmella beat Asuka to retain the WWE SmackDown Women's Championship. Now, you can listen to past episodes of Wrestling with Ideas to hear how I think about Carmella. But if you don't want to and you want to just keep listening to this, I will happily tell you how I feel about Carmella. I do not believe that Carmella should have a title belt on her right now. I do not believe that she's a good wrestler. She can't cut promos. She can't do anything as a wrestler. Now, there was a return. There was a WWE in-ring return, or not in-ring, but there was a WWE return made on Sunday. And it was a distraction. It was an interesting distraction on the part of said returnee that ended up getting Carmella the win. No Chin James Ellsworth made his return to WWE television. And people wonder why NXT is the hotter brand right now. That's all I need to say. Now we get into the good matches on the card. This one here, the next good match on the card, we have AJ Styles defeating Shinsuke Nakamura to retain the WWE Championship. This is one of the rare cases of an outcome that I agree with on this card here. You got AJ Styles. Now, Shinsuke Nakamura, don't get me wrong, he's a great in-ring wrestler. He's a great promo shooter. Shinsuke Nakamura as a heel is amazing. But AJ Styles just has what it takes right now. Now, he will probably drop the belt to somebody like... Well, I can't think of anybody right now, but he definitely will be dropping the belt at some point soon, perhaps at SummerSlam. But it was a good match. It went about half an hour, and that happened. Next up, we've got Ronda Rousey versus Nia Jax for the Raw Women's Championship. Now, Ronda, I was not expecting as good of a match out of this. Like, I wasn't expecting a good match here, but I was blown away by how well Ronda can actually work one-on-one as a professional wrestler. This match was amazing. This match was outstanding. And it seemed like everything was going well until Alexa Bliss's music hit and she came out and smashed everybody with the briefcase, while Ronda had the armbar on Jax. After attacking Ronda, who was thrown over the announce table, and attacking Jax with the briefcase, Bliss then cashed in her Money in the Bank contract on Jax and performed a snap DDT and twisted Bliss to win the title for a third time. Now, I am not that much more of a fan of Alexa Bliss than I am of Carmella, but I will say that Alexa Bliss is definitely the more deserving of the two women's champions right now. Now we've got the main event of the evening. We've got the Money in the Bank ladder match for the World Championship contract. We've got Braun Strowman defeating Bobby Roode, Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, Kofi Kingston, who is revealed to be the member of the New Day that was competing in this match, Rusev, Samoa Joe, and The Miz. Now, hear me out on this, okay? Bit of fantasy booking here going on. We're going to be getting into some more fantasy booking as the weeks go on, perhaps when I get into the summer and I have more time to write some stuff. But a little bit of fantasy booking here, okay? Picture this. SummerSlam 2018 in August. We've got Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns 5. The match that absolutely nobody wants to see, but we see Brock Lesnar in his final WWE match as Roman Reigns finally conquers the beast and wins the championship. Everybody's actually happy that Roman Reigns did something for once because it was a great match. But after this, Brock Lesnar goes absolutely insane. Paul Heyman starts throwing things into the ring. And now Brock Lesnar is beating the living hell out of Roman Reigns, which arguably should have been happening a long time ago. Honestly, if you were to ask me here, this Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar thing shouldn't have even happened. Maybe give it one match at all. But no, this is going to be the fifth match. This is going to be the fifth match between these two guys, and neither of them can wrestle each other. None of the matches have been good. But after Roman Reigns is left beaten and bruised, lying and left for dead in the ring, we hear Braun Strowman's music. Everybody knows what's about to happen. The Raw main event scene is about to change as we finally have a legitimate WWE Universal Champion in Braun Strowman, because he's going to cash in and he's going to win. Bro, hear me out. Like, I'm going to guarantee you right now, this is some guarantees from me, the Music Man. This is a personal guarantee on the part of the Music Man here. Braun Strowman will not only cash in his Money in the Bank contract at SummerSlam, he will also win the WWE Championship, WWE Universal Championship. Now, whether it is against Brock Lesnar or Braun Strowman, either way, this is going to be better for the WWE than whatever the hell they have going on right now. Like, it just pains me to think that we have, like, going back to what I was saying earlier, it pains me to think that we have guys like Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. Now, Roman Reigns, I've been crapping on Roman Reigns the past couple months during my time on the show. Now, I have to admit, I've been a bit unfair towards him. He's a great in-ring worker, but, like, he's doing the wrong things. Honestly. Creative is doing the wrong things with him. If you're asking me what they need to do to actually get Roman Reigns to be the way that they want him to be, turn him heel, please. Because if you have Roman Reigns turning heel, like, at this point, he's getting the amount of heat that John Cena's getting whenever he comes out. Now, albeit the fact that John Cena's heat has become more of a joke, more of a running joke with the fans, Like, he's getting the legitimate heat because nobody wants to see another Brock Lesnar match. And what do they do to help him? What do they do to help him be the golden boy that they once thought he was going to be? They put him in a feud with Jinder Mahal. Roman Reigns and Jinder Mahal works even less than Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. Now, Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar doesn't work at all. That just goes to tell you how much Roman Reigns versus Jinder Mahal doesn't work. Why are these guys in a feud together? If you're going to make the argument that Brock Lesnar not being available is the reason for Roman Reigns facing Jinder Mahal out of all the people, oh my God, look at the list of people that you have on Raw that you could do a better job with. Please, WWE Creative, listen to yourself. Talk for a second here. Like, Jesus, there's nothing for Roman Reigns right now. Turn him heel. Please. All right, I'm gonna take a bit of a break. I need to compose myself a little bit. But after this, I'm gonna talk a little bit of SmackDown as well. I'm gonna be doing my first ranking where I review my top 10 ladder matches of all time. You're listening to CKDJ 1079, Ottawa's new music.
What's up? It's Sheldon Jean, and you're listening to Wrestling with Ideas.
Welcome back inside the CKDJ studios right here on CKDJ 1079, Ottawa's new music. I am the music man, Colin Scully. Man, that was a fun. Well, it wasn't fun to talk about that. So those are my feelings on Money in the Bank. But shifting gears to arguably the better show so far in WWE's week, we've got SmackDown from Toledo, Ohio. Now, tonight's the way that they did this with Paige was actually interesting. She talked about the blue brand matches for Money in the Bank and tonight's gauntlet match to determine the Extreme Rules opponent for WWE Champion AJ Styles. Now, this style works for Paige, in my opinion, but it just doesn't work for anybody else. I don't know why. Tom Phillips is joined by Corey Graves and Byron Saxton, as always, and we go to the ring. And out comes SmackDown Women's Champion Carmella. And she talks about how she had low self-esteem issues when she was younger, but she was determined to not let them keep her down. She saw something in herself before anyone else could, and she became a champion. What she's trying to say is she wants every boy and girl out there who doesn't feel like they're good enough to look in the mirror and repeat these words, Mella is money. Now, this is a very good demonstration of how bad Carmella really is. Because if you watch this promo back, I'll put a link to it in the description of the Podbean thing here. Carmella can't wrestle. She can't cut promos. But then all of a sudden after this, Asuka's music comes out. Now, before this, there's been no mention of James Ellsworth so far. But all of a sudden, Asuka's music comes on, and Asuka, well, quote unquote, Asuka comes out to a pop. She gets closer to the ring, and we realize it's not really Asuka. The fake Asuka enters the ring, and it is revealed to be James Ellsworth. Now they start laughing, and then James Ellsworth cuts the classic line, "Nobody was ready for Ellsworth." He then goes on to say that Carmella, he then goes on to say something about how Carmella's a princess and he's here to serve her. And then he goes on to say that he's better than somebody like Charlotte Flair, or that Carmella rather is better than somebody like Charlotte Flair. He then goes on to also say that he believes that Carmella is better than the likes of Lita, Trish Stratus, Mother Teresa, Beyonce, Ronda Rousey, And last but certainly not least, she's better than Asuka. Now, Asuka comes out and she is heated. Like, Asuka, I've never seen Asuka this mad, but I am interested to see where this goes. Now, after this, you got Billie Kay versus Becky Lynch. It's sad to see Becky Lynch in such a low spot in the women's division right now. She has what it takes. They need to do something more with her. Becky Lynch got the win here. Now, after this, though, after the Becky Lynch match, we were treated to a promo from charismatic enigma Jeff Hardy. He talks about his match last Tuesday or 2 Tuesdays ago against Shinsuke Nakamura, and he talks about Shinsuke's match against AJ Styles from Money in the Bank.
Last Sunday at Money in the Bank, Shinsuke Nakamura failed to make the count of 10. AJ Styles was victorious. He's moved on. I have a memory that won't move on. A memory lodged inside my brain about what Nakamura did to me last Tuesday. His knee collided with my face, sending a shockwave through my epidermis, reverberating through my subcutaneous tissue, rattling my skeletal system, and shaking my soul. But his actions had an unintended consequence. Instead of unsettling me, his actions made me sharper focused. My eyes were closed before. Now they're open. Shinsuke, I see you.
So you may have noticed that the crowd popped insanely at a certain point in that audio clip there. And at this point, Jeff Hardy is turned around and he reveals sort of, it's almost like he's throwing it back to the era of TNA with the face paint that he's got on. He's got the eyelids, when his eyes are closed, he's got the eyelids painted as well there. And as you heard, he tells Shinsuke that he being Jeff Hardy sees him. Whatever this means, we'll have to tune in next Tuesday to find out. But moving on to Sanity making their main roster debut in a match against the Usos. Now, this match doesn't actually end up happening because Sanity beat the living hell out of the Usos. And this is something that I'm very excited to see because WWE has sort of been missing a cult following, like tag team faction, whatever you want to call them, for quite a while, probably since Undertaker's Ministry of Darkness. Nonetheless, Sanity beat the crap out of them. Sanity beat the crap out of them. And then we're greeted with a follow-up from Shinsuke Nakamura in response to Jeff Hardy.
Shinsuke, I know that you have requested this interview to explain your loss to AJ Styles in your last man standing match at Money in the Bank.
What is a loss?
Look, Shinsuke, if you're going to pretend that you don't know how to speak English again...
No, I understand exactly what you said. But how did I lose? I'm standing right in front of you. The only reason AJ is still WWE champion is because the referee counted very fast and he didn't count in Japanese. Very, very unfair.
Okay, well, what's your reaction to Jeff Hardy's comments from earlier?
Who?
Jeff Hardy.
No need to yell. Jeff Hardy's eyes may be open. If he crosses me again, I will close them.
Now that is a classic example of how to work a heel role. Carmella, you can go take some promo class from Shinsuke And even though he can't speak English, you'll be able to learn a thing or two. After this, we've got a rematch of literally the Sunday before between the Bludgeon Brothers and the Club for the SmackDown tag titles. Nothing really happened here. The Bludgeon Brothers did the same thing that they did on Sunday. They won the match, yada, yada, yada. Now, up next, we've got probably the better match of the card here. We've got the gauntlet match to determine AJ Styles' opponent at Extreme Rules for the WWE Championship. Daniel Bryan was announced earlier on in the night as the first entrant, and we've got Daniel Bryan versus Big E as the first segment of the match, so to speak. And this is something that they could do something with. Daniel Bryan as a face versus Big E as a heel. They've got something here. Now, Big E hit a big backbreaker for another close 2 count towards the end of that. Big E then goes for the big ending. Bryan slides out. Big E runs into the steel ring post as Bryan moves out of the way. Bryan with the big knee strike for the pin. Bryan advances and Big E has been eliminated. Now, as Daniel Bryan is on the mat, Samoa Joe's music hits and he starts going to the ring as WWE SmackDown goes to commercial. Back from the break as Joe is chopping Bryan into the corner. Joe keeps control as we see AJ Styles backstage watching. Bryan is now fighting back with more strikes and punches on Joe. Bryan charges, but Joe catches him with a big power slam. Joe hits more strikes after this to keep Bryan down. Joe drops Bryan again and the referee checks on him. Joe with a headbutt as Bryan's on his knees. Bryan slides out of a move and fights back with more strikes. Bryan starts fading on the floor as the referee counts. Bryan breaks free and runs back in the ring, just making it, as Joe is counted out and eliminated. Now the Bludgeon Brothers come out here and drive Bryan to the mat with their double team move. Fans boo as they exit the ring. The Miz comes out next, hits a skull crushing finale, pins Bryan, and Miz tosses him to the floor. Rusev marches to the ring with Aiden English talking him up right beside him. We go to commercial. The match happens. Rusev wins. Now, Rusev versus AJ Styles is something that arguably I am very excited to see, because Rusev has been over for a while, probably since WrestleMania, really. The whole Rusev Day thing, I don't know. Now, consider this. I'm going to consider this the beginning of the end of Aiden English and Rusev. There could be a match at SummerSlam between them. It was overall, I really liked the match here. So SmackDown, though, was arguably better than both Monday Night Raw and Money in the Bank. It doesn't give TakeOver a run for its money, but there were definitely some high spots in this past weekend. All right, when we come back, I'm going to be doing a ranking of my top 10 favorite ladder matches. You're listening to CKDJ 107.9, Ottawa's new music.
Hey, it's the hardcore legend Mick Foley, and you're listening to Wrestling with Ideas. Listen and learn and wrestle with ideas.
Welcome back inside the CKDJ studios here for Wrestling with Ideas on CKDJ 107.9, Ottawa's new music. I am the music man, Colin Scully. And just before we wrap things up here, I wanted to get to your questions. So this week we got 2 questions. The first one from Jonathan Skuse, the man with no excuses. His question this week is, Human Oddities in 2018. Does it work? Why? Why not? Now, for those of you who don't know who the Human Oddities are, they were a stable in the WWF during the Attitude Era, which consisted of the Jackal, Kurgan, Giant Silva, Golga, both members of Insane Clown Posse, Luna Vachon, and George the Animal Steele. Now, if George the Animal Steele, if that name sounds a little bit familiar, then you might remember him for this gem of a promo.
Come. Look. See?
So at this point here, I'll play the rest of the video, but just to explain, I'll link the video as well in the Podbean description. But just to explain what's going on here, Rick, no, not Rick. Who the hell is Rick? George Animal Steel and Special Delivery Jones are featured here, and they're cutting a promo, and yeah.
Look. Look. Say hi.
At this point, SD is visibly disturbed. But when you're cutting a promo with George the Animal Steel, you gotta feel like Sami Zayn as he was cutting the Lashley Sisters promo.
Hi.
George giving a little wave to the camera there.
SD.
Telling everybody who SD is.
Kendall.
Kendall.
George, what do you see when you look in the camera?
See? Look.
Now he's taking the
See?
Oh, I see.
announcer's
No.
face and shoving it into the camera.
Camera.
Camera. Telling SD what it is.
Kangaroo.
Oh.
George, you want to go to Australia too?
Kangaroo.
And he fell asleep. And he fell asleep.
Well,
That's definitely that's a gem of a promo right there. Definitely one of the better promos coming out of the golden era. But back to the human oddities. Does it work in 2018? The answer is no. The reason for this is that it will kill WWE, in my opinion. It'll kill WWE even more than they've already killed themselves with the Lashley and Zayn segments that they've done. All right, now Paul has a legitimate question here. He goes, who do you feel the next wave of call-ups should be from NXT? And how would you guys book Carmella post Money in the Bank? Well, if you'd like to hear who I believe are going to be the next call-ups from NXT, you can read my article published by both Ring the Damn Bell and Graham GSM Matthews' Next Era Wrestling. I detailed my list of the next 4 call-ups that I believe should be called up. I'll tell you guys who they are. It was Ricochet, Aleister Black, Pete Dunne, and Johnny Gargano. I'll link the article in the description as well as everything else that I said I would. And with that, thank you guys for listening to my first episode as sole host of Wrestling with Ideas, episode 110. Now, I mentioned in the last segment that I was going to be doing my ranking for the top 10, my favorite top 10 ladder matches. I'll announce it now. The Wrestling with Ideas website is going to be going live within the week, with before episode 111. And every week, just as I upload the podcast on Podbean, I will also be uploading a ranking. So from here on out, you can find my weekly top 10 rankings there on the Wrestling with Ideas website. As well, in terms of what's going on with the Parts Unknown WrestleCast, it'll be uploaded under the Wrestling with Ideas umbrella, so you'll be able to find everything else under the Wrestling with Ideas umbrella. I'll upload all the old episodes from the Parts Unknown WrestleCast Podbean account onto the Wrestling with Ideas Podbean account, and then we'll go from there. But until then, guys, thank you guys for listening, and as always, have a good one.